You can fairly compare my behavior to running over humans in cars to eat them. But I think it's closer to raising human babies in labs to be harvested and then like as food.
Do you think that's ethical? What's the best way to cause minimal harm to animals?
To hunt them like they would naturally be hunted.
It hurts my soul to watch plants get killed. This should be interesting.
I have a banner that says, "Give me your best argument for not being vegan."
Yes.
And you've very kindly sat down, and you've waited for a while as well.
Yes.
But I'm really interested to know what your thoughts around veganism are.
Okay, personally, I support vegans. I support vegetarians. I like animals. I love animals, I dare say. I've been told I should be a vet because of how good my interactions are with animals.
Really?
Yeah. I really like them. I like plants as well.
Yeah.
But I'm not a vegetarian.
Why not?
Because you're better than me. Yeah. But I do support people who choose to be vegetarian. I think it is good. I support the cause.
Why don't you join the cause of, and I would say veganism, not vegetarianism? Why don't you become vegan yourself?
I'm not a particularly good person, but I do try to eat like more sustainably sourced food when possible. And in Singapore, you get to choose from like more sustainable fish, so I do buy those.
Do you think that's ethical?
I think it's more ethical than like
More ethical than plants?
more ethical than plants. No, well, not necessarily, but I guess in general, yes. I don't think it's cruel in the same way to harvest plants, but it does hurt my soul watching plants get scythed like that. Although I guess it hurts my soul equally to watch animals get beheaded. So
Does it hurt your soul equally, or it just one hurt your soul more?
it's about equal.
Why would it be equal? A plant is not a sentient being, they're not experiencing. So it'd be interesting if he values plants the same as sentient beings. If he saw a human getting killed versus a tree, he would have the equal feeling towards it.
I don't think that the crux of my argument is that it sucks to kill plants.
No.
Yeah.
Well, in that regard then, how do you ethically justify your consumption of animals? Especially here, let's talk about the US where you are now
Okay.
as well. How do you ethically justify that?
Okay, so I have two angles that I'd like to get into this from.
Yeah.
So the first one is freedom of choice,
Yeah.
which is ultimately, even if it is quote unquote ethically wrong to eat animals, I think we should have the choice. And
Big problem here with freedom of choice. Your choice no longer becomes a choice when it imposes on somebody else. We don't have the freedom of choice to just murder human beings because that imposes upon other human beings. So this freedom of choice argument doesn't make sense when we're talking about imposing our will upon other individuals. We don't do it in the human context, and to some extent we don't do it in the non-human animal context. But it's weird that people think their freedoms are being taken away when they're not actually considering the literal freedom, literal life that was taken away from these sentient beings.
eat animals.
Should we have the freedom and choice to do whatever we like?
No.
Why not?
Because there are things that can disrupt society and harm people. And the metaphor I thought of when I was listening to the argument earlier was one of pro-choice, right? Pro-choice people like to try to convince conservatives by talking about exceptional cases like rape and incest in the hope that it will change their minds on banning abortion. I think this is an ineffective argument because it implies that you are asking for a concession in that if the conservatives would allow abortion in these cases of rape and incest or like endangerment to the mother, then in fact it would be okay to ban abortion. I think that doesn't make sense, right? Because fundamentally the reason pro-choice should be a thing is because it is pro-choice. You should have the freedom to decide what you want to do with your own body.
Right.
And for no other higher reason than that. So even if it is so-called ethically wrong to eat meat, I think you should be allowed to do it.
Okay, so does that mean that we should be allowed to do whatever we want to an animal?
No. First of all, there are animal cruelty laws.
Is that not? Is that
Yeah, it's going to be cruel to use an individual to exploit them and kill them. So it's going to be cruel to do those things anyway. So these cruelty laws that we have don't really make much sense. They aren't very consistent, and it would follow that we are imposing our will upon these individuals and that we shouldn't have the choice to just exploit them and kill them.
Is that not a violation of our freedom of choice?
It is. I think that it is bad to cause unnecessary suffering to an animal. For example,
it's all unnecessary. They don't need to be exploited and killed by us. We can avoid doing that. It's completely unnecessary.
if you torture an animal for pleasure, just like sadistic pleasure, I would think you're a terrible
But
person.
is that not your choice?
It is.
So why is that wrong then? They should be allowed to do it by your
Because
logic.
because well, this is different in the case of abortion, because in abortion that's your body.
Yeah, but what
right?
about in the case of just eating meat? Take abortion out of it and
Okay.
just focus on animals
Yes.
for a second.
Yes.
Why is that wrong? Because it's also freedom of choice, is it not?
It is.
Okay, so why is it wrong?
Because you're causing it unnecessary suffering. It does not amount to anything.
But it's your choice.
It is, but well, if it's not illegal, it is not illegal. But I think it is wrong
But why? It's freedom of choice.
because you are causing unnecessary suffering.
But you are when you buy meat.
Yes, but the suffering amounted to an end result, which is
The suffering amounted to an end result if someone is doing something for sadistic pleasure. They've got that pleasure from doing it. There was an end result. There's going to be an end result to any of these things. People are doing these horrible things to animals for purposes that amount to an end result. So there's no difference here.
the meat that you're consuming. I don't think that there are farming practices that intentionally cause suffering to an animal needlessly. There are farming practices that do cause.
Do you have to eat meat?
No, you do not.
So then it is needless.
All of it. The whole system. Completely needless. And yes, it entails all this suffering, exploitation, pain, harm, all these things. Cruelty is baked into the system.
It is it is needless, but it does not have a result. Like it does not have a viable and valuable product.
But if you torture an animal for fun, the end result is satisfaction and fun. That's an end result as well.
Okay, I mean,
Is that okay now?
Exactly.
well, personally, still no.
Why?
Well, funnily enough, I can't explain it.
Do you think it's a contradiction?
Not really.
Why?
Well, first of all, because I can't really explain why I think that is bad. I guess by default that would mean I would have to concede that it is not bad,
Yeah.
but I feel like that would take this in a completely different direction.
But what do you think? What do you actually think?
I think that we should not cause harm for the intention of causing harm.
But even if the intention is to eat meat, we know that harm has been caused.
Yes.
So is it the intention of causing harm, or is it just the infliction of harm that's relevant?
I think it's the intention of causing harm with the core intention to be to cause harm that is bad.
So, but even
Like
if
for
we-
example, if you accidentally hit somebody with a car,
Yeah.
you have caused harm.
Yeah.
You can't say that that person is in the moral wrong for having accidentally hit somebody with a car.
No.
Right.
But if you get in your car and your aim is to run people over.
Yeah, that's wrong because your intent is to hurt people.
But what if you want to eat them afterwards, and so your intention is actually to eat them?
Well, in a society with no laws, it would be quote unquote okay.
What do you think?
I think that humans have no more.
No, because law doesn't equate to morality. Something can be legal while still being wrong. The law catches up to the things that we deem as a society to be moral. And a society could agree upon something being moral that's completely immoral and turn it into a law. What I think he may be meant to say is in a lawless society, it would be deemed fine to do that, but it wouldn't necessarily be morally okay.
Moral standards and we only have legal standards.
Okay, so outside of a legal context, you don't
Okay.
think it's morally wrong?
I think it is morally wrong, but once I get down the discussion, it's a slippery slope.
Why is it morally wrong?
I can't tell you why it's morally wrong without you leading all the way to convincing me about why farming animals is wrong.
Okay.
But
He seems to be being honest and genuinely thinking this through. We are born into societies that deem these things correct. And we go through our lives with our loved ones who we care about, who are good people, engaging in those behaviours. So we do a bit of post hoc reasoning in order probably to make ourselves feel more comfortable about the actions we're engaging in.
But funnily enough, I don't understand why I make the distinction there. So let's say for the sake of argument that it's morally like dubious, but I don't think it's like. I think it's less contemptible than like murdering people for the sake of murdering people.
Okay, but you still think it's morally wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you concede that point, you already foresee the domino effect that occurs
Yes, I
here.
do.
And where does that domino
so-
effect lead us to?
My thought it is natural. So
What do you
we.
mean by that? Why did you do this?
Well, because we are biologically capable of eating meat, and we naturally would hunt meat to eat.
Why did you do this?
Well, I guess
We're biologically capable of getting our fists and clenching them. It doesn't mean we can then punch people. And a whole host of terrible things happen in nature. So appealing to nature in order to find our morality, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
probably I expect you would make some kind of argument about how you can naturally survive without eating meat whatsoever, right?
Okay.
And I think you can.
Okay.
Although it's not easy to get specific things, but you can definitely survive.
Such as?
DHA fish oil,
Where do you get that from?
fish.
Okay. Where do fish get it from?
I have no clue, but I do think you can get it from non-animals. It's just not easy.
Yeah, I mean, fish don't make it themselves. They
Yes.
get it from food, and they get it from algae. Or
Algae, right.
So your body can convert what we call ALA into DHA
Right.
and EPA, and you can also take an
I think
algae
seaweed
oil as well.
also is a source of because seaweed is an algae, right? Okay, yeah. But yes, I think you can survive off of plants, but
Yeah.
well, like mentioned earlier, there are ways to cause minimal harm to animals that you eat. Although not all meat we obtain would come from such a source,
Yeah.
but you can try as far as your means provide you to source for these things.
What's the best way to cause minimal harm to animals?
To hunt them like they would naturally be hunted.
I think you forgot about the option of not exploiting or killing them at all.
In the wild, right?
just that-
For example, a hunter shooting a deer and harvesting it and eating it. I think that's okay.
What's the morally significant difference between humans and other animals that would justify hunting them and harvesting these individuals? There isn't one.
Because, well, it's better than leaving an injured deer to bleed out and die and...
Yeah, an injured deer who the hunter has injured. You can't just hurt someone and then be like, they're hurt now, so I might as well kill them to put them out of their misery. I'm doing a nice thing.
Nobody eats it. I think that's a bigger waste
I agree.
and more morally wrong.
I agree, it's more morally wrong. But if minimizing animal harm is the objective, does hunting a deer or eating plants minimize animal harm? Which of those options minimize animal
Eating
harm?
plants would, of course, minimize animal harm, and that's why I support vegetarianism.
But you're not vegan.
But I'm not.
But you agree that it's the best way to minimize animal harm, which
Yes.
you also agree is ethically
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
thing to do.
yeah.
So why don't you do it then?
Because you're better than me.
No, that's a cop out. Because you're not a bad person, but you're saying that as a cop out.
Well, I choose not to. Maybe because I'm lazy. Maybe because I don't want to deal with the quote unquote guilt of the dead animal souls resting on millions of dead animal souls on my body. Although I
Why
know you
contribute to
mentioned
more then? Why contribute to more souls?
somehow it does not. It does not impact me.
Probably because the societies we're in say that it's acceptable. They have all these advertisements, they have all this media that says this is absolutely fine. You have loads of people arguing for harming animals. So it alleviates a lot of the guilt that we would experience if we lived in a world where we did just follow our values. So we probably feel less guilt than we would in a world that didn't do that.
In hindsight, there's moral harm that I've caused.
So we should only make changes to things that impact us, not impact others?
No.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good point. Like, just because it doesn't impact you personally, like, there are many serial killers who do not feel remorse for what they've done. It doesn't mean that what they've done isn't a bad thing.
No. Well, I think you can fairly compare my behavior to running over humans in cars to eat them. But I think it's closer to raising human babies in labs to be harvested and then like as food.
Do you think that's ethical?
Why are you hesitating?
I don't think it's any less ethical than harvesting animals from a similar situation.
But is it ethical?
Why are you hesitating?
Funnily enough, I would put this somewhere 50-50.
50-50?
In the sense that okay, I think the difference between this and running over random people in the street to kill them for food is that those people have a bound to society, are bound to society, and they have like families and friends and stuff. So like the guy mentioned earlier, right, if you kill a person and well, their family grieves, you cause harm to several people, and they also have like jobs and impact in society. So you're depleting that.
I see what he's saying now. He's saying there's more of a moral impact on individuals as well as those humans. But you haven't then accounted for the moral impact of premeditating an exploitation factory.
Then you raise the example of the homeless person. I do think actually it's okay to kill a homeless person if they are okay with it.
If they're okay with it.
If they're okay with it. But if they're not okay with it, then, well, probably you shouldn't. But
do you think it's morally wrong to kill a homeless person
if they don't want it, if they resist it?
Yeah.
I guess it would be, but somehow that's not in that the amount of moral wrongness in that is not high enough for me to want to change my behavior.
But you recognize that ethically killing a human, and of course I know that we're running this as somewhat of a parallel to
Yes.
killing animals, of
Yes.
course, killing non-human
Yes.
animals. You recognize that ethically that's wrong.
Yes, but I don't think it's wrong enough that I need to change my behavior.
Why? What would make it wrong enough? What would it have to do?
If
This is where debating a vegan leads you, by the way, to like biting the bullet on these sorts of situations. It's not good.
necessary to the farming process is causing as much pain or intentionally causing pain to animals.
But it is. When the farmer mutilates a pig or puts a hen in a cage, do you not think that they know that causes harm?
They do.
It's intentionally causing harm.
Yes, but it's not with the
And it's intentionally causing harm because these animals are it's premeditated that they are going to be exploited for a product that we make out of their bodies or their secretions. We know that's not going to be good for an animal. It's not going to be in their best interest. In fact, it's going to be probably in their worst interest. We know that.
intention of causing harm.
It's the intention of making money.
Yes.
Right? And they
Knowing that the harm is going to be baked into that.
know that the way they can make the most money is by doing something that causes harm. So they're not doing it because it causes harm, they're doing it to make money, but they know that the consequence of that is it causes harm. So they are intentionally causing harm.
Yeah, I suppose they are.
And you're paying for that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, we pay for a lot of other exploitative industries as well, like electricity. That is an extremely exploited industry.
So
right?
So should we not try and make anything better then?
Yeah. Trying to avoid electricity in the modern world, good luck with that. Like, you need things like a phone for a job. Every job you're going to go to has some sort of light, some sort of electricity, computer or machine working. If they don't, the tools that you're using were manufactured using electricity. And of course, in this economy, you need a job to survive. However, when it comes to animal rights, you can put your hand somewhere in the supermarket that doesn't mean you are paying for animal bodies or secretions. You can buy the cosmetics that aren't tested on animals and say certified vegan. You can avoid entirely betting on horses or greyhounds. You can literally purposefully avoid these industries. I don't know how far you'd get avoiding electricity. So I don't think you can even compare these two. Not to mention, we're talking about rights violations, and the rights violations are entailed in the secretions and bodies of animals that we are purchasing.
Utility.
No, I think we should, but I personally am too lazy for it. That's why I encourage your cause and I don't oppose you.
So animals should die because you're too lazy.
Well, I mean, if I die because of another human's negligence, what happens, I guess.
But do animals deserve to die because you're lazy?
No.
No.
But I think animals that are raised from birth to be eaten, well, I mean, it's kind of like you created a life and then you destroy it yourself, right? It's like, I think that's better than like capturing animals and then imprisoning them and then farming them to eat.
But is it better than not doing it at all?
No, it is not. It is worse, but I don't think it's that much worse because it has been raised from birth to be imprisoned, unfortunately.
So if we breed dogs for dog fighting, that makes dog fighting okay?
No.
No. Why not?
No, because in that case, the sole reason you're raising the dogs is for the dog's suffering.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's for an outcome we were talking about before, that the outcome makes it okay, apparently. People bet on dogfights, who's going to win, who will die, and they make money. It's a monetary exchange. So in theory, I can't remember if he backtracked on that or not. In theory, that should be absolutely fine because it has an outcome.
It's to make money.
It's for fighting, right? The point of fighting is to cause harm to the dogs.
No, it's entertainment and gambling and money.
Yeah.
But like the whole premise of the entertainment is the injury of the dogs.
And the whole premise of yes, exactly. But
Right.
the harming of the dogs is a consequence of you wanting to use dogs to make money through dog fighting. In the same way that the harming of the animals is a consequence of you wanting to eat meat.
Okay.
But they're bred for that purpose. That's the argument you made.
Right.
So why is that not moral then, if they're bred for that purpose?
Well, I guess
Because it
I can't say it's not then.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are humans raised to do terrible things as well. All right. There are people who are radicalized from birth to be terrorists, and not birth, but like from young, because of the environment that they're raised in, and they do terrible things. But I don't think that makes them awful and irredeemable people.
Well, it's a bit different.
Right.
Because what we're talking about is an animal who's bred into a situation, and then we're using the fact that they've been bred into that situation as a justification for harming them, because that was the reason.
Not a justification for harming them, but I'm just saying that it makes it less morally wrong than, taking away the free life.
Premeditated.
Right, it is premeditated.
So isn't premeditated harm worse?
Yes. Yeah, it is. But
So how do you justify not being vegan?
like I said, the amount of moral wrongness of the situation is not enough to convince me.
And what would it take?
Yeah,
Animal
what
suffering isn't enough.
I'm not sure actually.
How much suffering would it take for it to be wrong?
I think all it would take to make me vegan is probably like impossible meat that tastes exactly the same as real meat. I don't think there's really any reason after that to not eat meat anymore.
But that
It already
exists.
exists now.
Does it? Exactly the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'll give it a try, I guess. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Give veganism a try.
okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith.
I mean, could we continue talking anyway?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious whether you think that making animals suffer or making animals die is worse.
Well, if you cause an animal to suffer and then you kill them, that's worse than just killing
Okay.
them. But that doesn't make the killing in and of itself okay.
What is wrong with killing an animal in a fairly painless way?
I mean, the same
For
reason
food.
why it's wrong to kill a human in a fairly painless way. It's robbing them of their existence.
Right, but well, say we have the parallel again of breeding a human in a test tube and just growing them in a lab, and then, well, killing. Let's say you kill them at a certain age to harvest their organs, right?
I don't think that's okay.
What gives?
What do you think is okay?
I think so.
So
Oh no! Wow.
if someone killed you to harvest your organs, you wouldn't stop them.
No, because I was not. Well, I have experience of an outside world bound to families, relationships, and friends and
Sure.
society.
Okay, well, let's say you become homeless, you lose all your family and friends.
Okay.
And now you can have your organs harvested.
Well, but I'm going to die in a painless manner. I think that's okay.
So you're happy to, you don't actually think that you would resist, wouldn't you?
No.
You wouldn't. So
No, I wouldn't. I think I would have a greater and better impact on society than if I was alive having no time.
Well, that's good for you, but why impose that on other people? A lot of people are going to fight for their life and think, oh my God, what the hell? You're trying to take my life away from me so you can have my organs. That is not okay. So even if you're like, oh, you know, my contribution to society is far outweighing my entire existence, I think you're going to have a hard time convincing others that that's what they would want for themselves in that situation.
Ties to society or friends and family.
I mean, you potentially, if you had your organs donated now, you could save multiple people right now. So why don't you do that now then?
Because I have ties to family, relations, friends, and society right now.
Well, so do the people.
So what you're saying then is you only have extrinsic value. Your value is only for your friends and what you do for society. You don't have any intrinsic value, like value in and of yourself.
People who are going to die if you don't give them your organs.
Well, yes, but I don't think that we should be obligated to save people. I mean, we like at the cost of our.
In some way, you seem to think that. You seem to think that if you don't have ties to individuals, you are obligated to save people with your entire existence without your consent to do so.
Own lives, potentially.
Well, why not?
Well, I mean, you have the right to choose. It's your own body, right?
Right. So you think that having control of your own body is important? Autonomy is important?
Yes.
Right. So why are we able to violate the autonomy of animals then?
Well, in a specific case that they are farmed, for example, I think that they're probably raised in an environment in which their lives are like
Awful.
Again, you know, the moral harm I'm causing is not enough for me to put an effort to change. Although I will now that you've said that. Yeah.
So you do think it is enough to make a change then? Because you just
It
said
is.
you will.
Yeah, it is. But let's say I'm
not sure what he really believes at this point. I suppose when you're challenged with these things the first time, you're just all over the place. Like, it's hard to kind of gauge what you actually believe, because what you believe versus what society says is acceptable, typically, they don't align. So it is very confusing to navigate.
I'm a terrible person who is. Well, for our sake of argument, say I'm not, right? Because you'll have to convince those people too.
No, but I want to convince you, and I don't want to hypothesize that you're someone that you're not, because I'm interested in actually talking to you, and it seems like we've reached a good point where you recognize that there is a reason for you to change.
Okay.
And you will try it.
I'm just trying to find some baselines. So let's. Why is it okay for omnivorous animals to eat other animals?
Because they have to, we don't have to, and because they can't be held to the same moral standard as us, because they lack the intellectual capacity to be held to the same moral standard as us.
If they lack the intellectual capacity to be held to the same moral standard as us, then what gives their lives the same value as us?
I didn't say
It doesn't even necessarily have to be the case that they have the same value, but humans aren't on the same level of intellectual capacity. You don't want to say, this human with lower intellectual capacity, they're less valuable, their life is less valuable. Therefore, it would be justified to exploit and kill them. That's where the conversation ends up leading.
They have the same value as us.
Okay, what gives that, value?
The value of life is higher than the reasons we have to exploit them and harm them.
Okay.
In other words, their right to life, their value of life is higher than our taste buds.
Okay,
Yeah?
fair.
Thank you, Keith.
And there's the end. Earthing Ed, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to go vegan for the animals, because they are who. It means everything too.